making friends. My name is Joey Balestrieri. Welcome to my channel and to my work table. I am back today with another project with my Jesse James Beads Magical Mystery Bead Box for the month of July. It is called Summer Festival and it is so beautiful. I am having so much fun with this box. I did an unboxing and couldn't help myself. I had to make a really fast pair of earrings before I could put the beads away. And I just love the way they turned out. They are so pretty. They're like the flower child earrings from the 1960s, the psychedelic 60s. But today I was planning to do a necklace video and I was a little bit tired last night, so I didn't start on it right away. I just left all of the beads out on my mat, and these beads woke me up because I could not stop thinking about this rose and the necklace design that I want to do. So I had a little bit of trouble in filming this whole project. Something has happened to my volume on my camera, so I'm doing a voiceover. So if this video seems a little bit weird as I go along, I apologize for that, but I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did. So I plan to use this leather cord. It's so beautiful. I'm going to put some glue-in cord ends on this so that it will be interchangeable. This pendant will be able to go on this cord, and I can also take it off and put other things on the cord. So I'm going to be using the Loctite Super Gel Control to just glue these cord ends on. It's super easy. I'm going to do this first so I can set it off to dry. All I'm going to do is get a little bead of this glue flowing and put it inside this end cap, and then push my leather end inside there. And it's helpful to keep a little toothpick or a piece of wire handy when you're doing this, just to make sure that your work is neat and everything dries nicely. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And I am just going to set this aside to dry while I create the pendant. But before I do that, I just want to talk to you about the leather that I'm using. It is a 1.5 millimeter leather. It's a little bit weathered. It's called Weather Sky number 36. And it's really beautiful. It's not a solid color. It has a little bit of a distressing on it. And I purchased this from an Etsy shop called Bracelet Street USA. It is a lovely small business. I order a lot of leather from them, and I actually got this pack for free. It was a gift from Cindy, the owner of the shop, and she put this beautiful little note that said, "Joey, a gift for you. Thank you for your support." So it was really nice, and I just love this. I highly recommend this shop. I order from her an awful lot. So I have just used a little scrap of wire to work out my tassel design here. I'm going to deconstruct this and put it back together with you so that you can see exactly what I did. But I've been playing with all of the mixes and strands in the box. The looped tassel portion is from the Janis Joplin chain that was in this month's box, and I didn't want to cut it, so I just made some loops. And I'm going to be using my Softflex craft wire in the 20 gauge, and I'm going to use my 1-step looper in the 2¼ millimeter size. I need a little bit larger loop because I'm going to be gathering the wrapped loops on that chain onto this loop. So many of you have seen me use this before. I just close it slowly, let it make that loop and the fresh cut all in one step, and then I pull that wire down and straighten it, and that way I am ready to build my component, and I can see that that loop is centered on the wire, so everything is nice and straight. So now I'm going to open that loop, and as I said, I have to deconstruct what I was working on. It was just kind of my prototype of where I was going to go with this tassel. And I am going to thread on all the loops onto this longer piece of wire so that I can have space to do a wire wrapped loop at the top. So I'm just going to thread them all on, and it creates a loopy tassel. I'm not cutting the ends because I don't want to lose any of my chain component here. The best way to do it is to have the loop open and just thread the loops that I want at the top of my tassel right on to the straight portion of wire, and then just let it slide right down into that open loop. And now I'm going to just close that loop really well, and the beginning of my tassel is done. And I have already added a few charms into this beaded chain. I've taken some of the little drops from I think it was the Jimi Hendrix bead mix, and I've taken some of the little leaves and even some of the spacer beads. And I love these little components that are little crystal, it's like a crystal beaded ring, and I'm sort of forming my own cone for the top of this tassel. I really love these spacers. They are so cool and so dimensional, and I just played with all of these bits to come up with a really pretty stack that is going to sort of create the top of this tassel. These are beautiful sort of cloisonne style bead caps, and I've turned this one upside down and put it down inside that large hole ring so that it stabilizes everything. And then you'll see as I continue to stack like the crystal, look at that. It just makes this really beautiful like tassel cap. And all the colors are going to be happening. The summer festival, let me try that again. The summer festival colors are all going to be happening. And I kind of put all the elements in the top of this tassel that are going to be hanging on the dangling bit. I love this puffy coin bead, and then I'm going to top everything off with another one of those enamel bead caps, and it just looks great. And so what I want to do now is a wire wrapped loop so that I can really secure everything facing forward and kind of keep this whole component nice and straight and firm, and all of those beads that are stacked in place. So I'm going to give myself a 90-degree bend and then come in with my round nose pliers, and this is just a normal wire wrapped loop. I don't need it to be too big, so I'm staying down toward the tip of my pliers because I will be adding this to the other portion of the pendant, the rose portion, with jump rings. Just wrap a nice coil, super neat in line all the way down to that top of that stack of beads. But you could do a messy wrap here if you like that look. So this is going to get attached to the rose once I do a little fancy wire work on it. But before I do that, I am going to take the little jump rings that I made out of that same 20 gauge wire, and I made a little bit larger one to turn that spacer into a dangle, just because I needed a little space since the hole is in the center of that spacer bead. So I made a little bit larger. I think it's like a 5 millimeter. I use my bail making pliers for that. And I'm just going to randomly add in these little elements into the loops on the chain. Just make sure my jump rings are closed really well because I don't want to lose any of these charms when this tassel pendant starts to dangle. I made really small 4 millimeter jump rings for those little enamel turquoise drops that are going to get added in. and I also will be able to use those on the little coral colored sort of lentil disc drops. And those smaller jump rings also worked really well on the gold leaf charms that were in the bead mix. So I am just going to add them in randomly, just add them right onto the wrapped loops of this chain, and just continue to close those jump rings really well until I have it as full and as interesting as I'm happy with. I'm going to do a little creative wire wrapping now for the rose portion of this pendant. Another piece of that 20 gauge wire is what I'm using, and I'm going to make a spiral, but I need the spiral to have kind of an open center because I need to be able to fit a jump ring through the center of this spiral. So I'm just going to make it open enough, and that's going to be the center, and just get a nice spiral into the end of this piece of wire before I do anything else. I like my bent chain nose pliers for this, and I just in small increments gently push the wire against my finger. I want to tidy this up. I want to make sure that I have a nice neat round spiral. So before I keep going, I always check if anything seems off. I straighten it out before I continue spiraling, just laying the wire right next to the coil that I last did. I'm paying attention to the scale and the size of what I'm making here for the pendant, because that rose is really chunky and it's got a thickness to it and it's kind of oversized. This is going to be a real statement piece. So I want this spiral to coordinate in scale with the tassel and with the rose, but I still need to be able to fit the jump ring through the center of this spiral because that's going to be my attachment from the rose to the tassel. Then I'm just going to bend that wire up, and so essentially I've made like an oversized head pin. And now's the creative part. I'm going to feed that wire through the bottom hole, what I have determined is the bottom hole of the rose, and just give it a little bend so that that wire lays flat along the back of the rose. So the back of my pendant will be nice and neat and clean and look just as good as the front. And then I need to just carefully coax the wire through the hole from the back coming back towards the front. So I have a little bit more wire here than I'm going to need, but I didn't want to run short. I wanted to have plenty of space to do a nice bail. So I'm just going to take my time, and without putting any kinks in the wire or any undue pressure on my rose, I'm just going to like work it through and get that wire to lay flat along the back and my spiral to be right at the base of the rose. I'm pretty happy with it, but I'm going to bring in my nylon jaw pliers just to make sure that that wire's nice and flat and straight and smooth down the back of my pendant, and make sure that my spiral is straight and facing forward. And you know, before I go any further, I just want to tidy everything up. Now I can come to the top portion and create my bail. I want to start with a really nice smooth piece of wire, and I absolutely have to mention these clasps that came in the box. They are absolutely gorgeous, almost an Art Deco feel, a mix of gold and black and silver, really beautiful. But if I were to use this clasp on my leather cord, I would have to have a really gigantic opening in my bail, and that clasp is just so beautiful. I'm going to save it for a bracelet project so that it can be seen. And I have gone into my stash instead and just taken out this little brass lobster clasp, and that's what I'm going to attach to those glue-in cord ends on my leather, and then I won't have to have such a large opening for my bail, and this pendant will still be interchangeable, and I can use my beautiful turquoise leather for other pendants as well. So I'm going to use my 6-step bail making plier, and this 3rd step on the plier will be a good size for that. So I'm going to start by making a 90-degree bend. It sort of looks like a regular wire wrapped loop, and I'm just going to place the bail making plier on that 3rd step and do everything just the way we would with a normal wire wrapped loop. Just rotate that out of my way and pull that wire to the back. But I am going to do that a 2nd time. I'm going to move this plier out of my way and do a double loop for this bail. So it's exactly the same step. Just kind of have to get the plier out of your way, and you know, I'm dealing with a really large rose as well, but it's not too bad. And it just adds a little bit of sturdiness. It substantiates this pendant. So it's the same, just a double loop. And now I'm just going to get a hold of it and wrap that wire just the same way that we would a normal wire wrapped loop. Sometimes I will reach for my nylon jaw pliers instead of regular pliers to hold on to it. But as you can see, I got a really nice size. That clasp is going to easily slide in and out of this bail. And now I'm just going to wrap down to my rose. This is one time when I think I will do a little bit of a messy wrap. I do tend to do neater wraps, but I think this will look really good, make this a little bit chunkier and give a little bit more of that wire presence right down to the top of my rose. So I'm just going to wrap down and then back up again until I'm happy with the thickness. That looks great. And I want to stop my wrapping on the back of the pendant and trim it and tuck. Don't want anything scratchy, anything that will put a snag in clothing or scratch skin, and I really don't want to see the end, the cut end either. So I'm just going to gently hide that end where I've cut, just push it into the coils. And now that I'm all done with everything, I can just line up that double loop, just tidy everything up. Just make sure that it's nice and neat and looks beautiful. That is such a pretty bail. I'm so happy with the way that it turned out. That is absolutely gorgeous. So my rose is now ready to go with that little bit of wire working, and I can now attach it to the tassel. And I have made larger jump rings with that same wire, and I'm going to do the double jump ring method here. You could just do one. Sometimes I even go up to a triple. It just looks so good to have the architecture of 2 or 3 jump rings when your pendant is oversized like this. That second jump ring just looks great. It coordinates really well with the double bail that I created, and I just love it. And it is now done. It is ready to go right onto this leather. I just have to add the jump rings to this little lobster claw clasp. It has solid rings on it, so I have to add some smaller jump rings to the existing rings on this clasp. This just goes so easily through that beautiful bail, and I just think it's gorgeous. I love that I've added a little turquoise to match the chain. This box was so beautiful with the red and the turquoise and the green and the gold, and it had silver in it and that little pop of black with those large hole like crystal spacer beads. It just looks great. And I've also added another leather necklace to my jewelry wardrobe that I can wear with this pendant or take that pendant off and use it with something else. And this just looks great with my earrings as well. And if you've been around me at all, you know that I really love interchangeable jewelry. These are my lever back ear wires that are gold filled and interchangeable. And as the boxes and beads come in for us jewelry makers, it is so great not to need an ear wire every time, and sometimes just to make beautiful pendants and not have to do the necklace portion every time. So I love the interchangeable concept with jewelry. It's so great. It's really it's great for everyone, but especially for those of us that make a lot of jewelry. This cuts down on an excess of necklaces hanging in our closets, and it is just so much fun sometimes just to make a beautiful pendant. So I thank you so much for watching. I do have a discount code for Jessie James Beads, and I can put that in the description box below. This is a fabulous box, always unique, really clever themes. Pay attention when you go on the website, because the longer that you sign up for receiving the box, if this is a box that you really would like to work with regularly, the lower the price becomes. But you can also just buy one box. If there's any left, you can often buy one box on the website. But my discount code is good for signing up for the Magical Mystery Bead Box or for shopping the website. And it is such a fun website. There are beautiful bead strands. Jessie James Beads is famous for their boho beads, and they have a seed bead selection and some chain. It's just a really great website. So my discount code will be in the description box underneath this video. Tap more. I work really hard on those boxes. I will link anything that I know where I got it, my tools, everything is always linked in the description box. And I thank you again for watching. I hope everyone is safe and well and having fun on their beading mats, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, jewelry making friends.